I apologize in advance if the following video sounds dismissive or offensive. That wasn't the intention, but you have to understand that I've considered these things for a decade and come to a firm conclusion about them. I'm obviously open to new ideas, but none of the ideas presented in this video are new. I've seen them hundreds of times. This video is not specifically aimed at religious people, although they might find some sort of value in it if they were wondering how an atheist might answer these questions. Non-theists might also find this video useful for ideas about how they might answer these questions themselves. What is atheism? Atheism is a broad term, and I'm sure that everyone's perspective of it is slightly different, and I'm not so presumptuous to say that my perspective is the best one. As I see it though, atheism is simply put the position that there are no supernatural gods or deities. Aren't all atheists technically agnostics? Nah dog, agnosticism is being unsure, being ambivalent, being on the fence, still considering the possibility that God may exist. I am no longer considering that a possibility. Aren't atheists being arrogant to claim they know there's no God? Not really, because I don't think it's that difficult to prove that an almighty God cannot exist. I made a video about this, but Christina Rad, my favorite atheist on YouTube, made a much better video. Go watch it. Basically though, it's like if someone came up to me and said 2 + 2 = 50. If that happened, I would confidently challenge them on that, and I wouldn't be arrogant for doing so. Because I know some things about the world that make that impossible to be true, and I think it's the same with God. How can anyone claim to know anything? That's kind of an obnoxious question. Just saying. Here's the thing I know. I have a lighter in my hand. I'm gonna let it go, and it's gonna go down. It's not gonna go up. It's not gonna float in midair. It's gonna go down, and I know it is. I know. I don't think. I know. You want to bet on it? Are you challenging me? This is something that I know. Yes, there are some things that we can know. What created the universe if not God? I don't know, but I'm not just going to believe the first thing someone tells me without evidence either. How do you explain the high degree of design in the universe if there's no God? Well, Occam's razor, first of all. Secondly, for every bit of design you think you see in the universe, there's like 10 times as much randomness and inefficiency. So if there were a designer, he was either pretty lazy or just really bad at designing shit. Also, just because something looks a certain way doesn't mean it is that way. That's a logical fallacy called an argument from incredulity. Isn't atheism basically another religion? I would not consider atheism a religion or a worldview because my daily actions and convictions and philosophies are not informed by my atheism. For example, a Christian goes to church and prays and maybe avoids having sex because he or she is a Christian. There are no things I do because I am an atheist. What's the difference between believing something you read in a science book and believing something you read in the Bible? It's all faith, isn't it? You are correct to assume that I'd be more likely to believe a statement written by a respected scientist than one written in the Bible, but I don't think that's faith. See, scientists have a pretty good track record. Most things that I've read by scientists have turned out to be true once checked. And even the things that weren't true, the scientists came back and corrected themselves. The Bible, on the other hand, tells me a bunch of things, most of which I can't check, and it also tells me a lot of things that I know aren't true, like the age of the universe, for example. Why are some atheists so antagonistic towards Christianity? Well, Christians make up the majority of the population, so naturally they speak the loudest. It would make sense then for people that oppose the theist message that Christians would be the primary target of their opposition. Other than that though, Christianity, as it is explained in the Bible at least, is pretty fucked up, and more so than many other religions. And adding to the frustration, Christians routinely justify all the terrible things in the Bible with circular logic, ad hoc speculation, and most often just blind faith, which is kind of annoying. Why did you convert from being a believer to a non-believer? Now, this is a question that you're going to get a lot of different answers depending on who you ask, but for me personally, it was literally, I felt like I couldn't consider myself a rational person while believing in something so absurd. It was kind of interesting actually, and no offense to anyone, but I literally woke up one day and was like, this is ridiculous. Do you think the world would be better off without religion? Only the ones that promote anti-intellectualism and discrimination, which is most of them. So what's the purpose of life then? Personally, I prefer the lack of a divine purpose. Things having a purpose is overrated. I get to decide my own purpose. Life is pretty sweet, I'd say, with or without a purpose. How can you have morals without God? This question always baffles me because I'm an atheist and I have morals. I'm like literally doing the thing that you're questioning. Like, for example, it's inherently clear to anyone with common sense that being kind is good. Like, you don't don't need God or the Bible to understand that. If religion has brought so much good and comfort into the world, why are you hating? Now, religion has been at the root of just as much war and violence and pain and discrimination, so that's not really that good an argument. But personally, I am more concerned with what is true than what is comforting. What would it take for you to believe in God? That's a hard question to answer. It's sort of like asking, what would it take for you to believe that 2 + 2 = 50? Well, first you'd have to disprove what I already know to be true about the world that directly contradicts your assertion that God exists, or that 2 + 2 = 50, and then provide evidence for that assertion. Well, what would constitute sufficient evidence of God's existence then? Well, a good start would be for anything about God or his works that has been predicted by the Bible or Christian theology to be conclusively proven to be true without the use of things like circular logic or ad hoc speculation or using the Bible itself as the main source. I believe in God, but not organized religion. Okay, cool. Have fun with that. If you have any more questions for an atheist, leave them in the comments.